Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Spar&Brawl. Hope you're having a good day. As always, I'm joined by my co-host Sam. And as we started to do for the past few weeks, we have a kind of overall update on Iran and the region for you. So Sam is first going to talk about the missile attacks in Iraq a few days ago, and then give the latest with the Iran U.S. nuclear deal, which is there have been some developments even today. So Sam, please.
Hello everyone, and yeah, there's been quite interesting few developments. But first of all, there was a missile attacks on a U.S. airbase in a Kurdistani region of Iraq, near Erbil, I believe. A civilian contractor was killed, and latest report I read was that eight people were wounded in the attack. The attack was uh, the attack was claimed by a recently organized Shia group calling itself Awaliya al-Dam, or Guardians of Blood. Nobody knows who they are. Nobody knows who are they backed by. However, that hasn't stopped many in the mainstream media to start saying that this is a group that is backed by Iran potentially. I highly doubt it. I don't think. I personally think that Iran, just like US, is trying to reduce tension so they go back to the nuclear deal. But a lot of media reports, including Guardian, uh, framed it as a test of Joe Biden's foreign policy, as if, like, if he doesn't go to, all right, he's been really tested now. So that's the usual way the media tries to amp up tension between two countries. White House Press Secretary I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, Jen Psaki or Jen Psaki. I'm not sure if the P is silent. She said that we are outraged by last night's rocket attacks in Iraqi Kurdistan region. As always, the President of the United States and administration reserves the right to respond and the time in the manner of our choosing, but we'll wait for the attribution to be concluded. So they gave a measured response, it seems. Blinken, State Secretary, conveyed his outrage and his condolences to the families of the victims. So that was quite an interesting attack. Although I would say that compared to attacks that happened, I think it was a few years ago, 2 years ago or a year ago, in near Baghdad or in the Green Zone or other attacks, it seems that there is less tension. And from what I recall, some of those attacks didn't have any casualties, and this attack had one civilian casualty. So while uh, they are still framing it as if Iran is responsible without any evidence yet, but compared to the previous times when there was such missile exchanges, or whatever we want to call them, such incidents, there is less tension being ramped up and less media, pushing for war or something like that. That may be because the White House right now is not, is not. I mean, I would imagine if Mike Pompeo was in charge, we would have a completely different reaction, far more aggressive. But that was the rocket attacks. I don't know what's your take on this.
No, yeah, that's very interesting. No, I agree with your take there, especially there what you said at the end. I mean, why they didn't make it a bigger deal, and that Pompeo could have made it a bigger deal. But and also, like you said, I mean, making the connection to Iran is kind of far fetched, and there's a little bit far fetched maybe, and there isn't much evidence even for Western media. And also at the same time, there's nothing left for the Western media to even say about Iraq. So like,
There may be certain connections between a Shia group and some Iranian authorities or some Iranian officials or something, but the idea that this was a planned attack by Iranian government, I think, is somewhat
yeah.
far-fetched. But again, there may be rogue elements, saboteurs or something, but I doubt well, who knows though? Who knows?
Yeah, and for this story to become really sexy for the US media right now, it has to become about Iran. I mean, Iraq, I don't know how, like,
Yeah,
interesting
well,
interesting
yeah,
it is for
it
them
lost its
right now.
flavor. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's no longer the same.
but yeah. But that was it about the rocket attacks. So that was that. And then we have some developments in terms of the Iran-US relations, or Iran and US deal, however we want to look at it. As we spoke in previous videos, US somewhat hardened its stance. Everybody expected it to sort of return to the deal, but Blinken and Biden sort of came out and said that until Iran doesn't go back to full compliance, we are not coming back. So in face of that, Iran has announced that they're gonna reduce their commitments to the deal even further by 23rd of February, unless they see some action by American government. So before 23rd of February, there's going to be a meeting tomorrow between the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, and his counterpart in Europe, about Iran's plan to reduce its commitments. At the same time, I think on Saturday, IA, the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA. I don't know why, but I always have a trouble pronouncing their acronym. Rafael Grossi is coming to Iran to have negotiations or have talks with Iranian authorities again about their planned decision to reduce their commitments to the deal on 23rd of February. So things are basically, things are getting real. At least I don't think Iran can back down at this point. They've been saying this for a couple of months, so they have to either go reduce their commitments, or uh, other side may come up with some actions. Otherwise, it seems Iran's reduction of commitments is unavoidable at this point. But at the same time, you had the supreme leader give a speech, and he said that Iran is ready to go back to the deal and full compliance as soon as we see any action, or a single action from American or European, from the other sides in the deal. And he, I think, here justifiably said that we have heard a lot of good things and a lot of good there's been a lot of good promises, but not much has been delivered. So we are waiting for a real action before we do anything. And then Iranian President Rouhani went even somewhat further in the in terms of rhetoric, you can say, and he said that yeah, Iran will immediately go back to the full compliance if US goes back to the deal, and Europeans, everybody honors their obligations to the deal. If, for example, US goes back to the deal tonight, we'll be in full compliance by the day after noon, or the day after afternoon or something. So, Iran is again and again emphasizing that they have been the ones that have been honoring the deal for much longer and have been waiting, and they really need to see real action, to be honest. But at the same time, there Americans are playing a very, you can read them at this point. Sometimes they seem very positive. Sometimes they seem to be no, who knows at this point. But I thought I share these developments. Another interesting, somewhat related development was that Israeli ambassador to US also commented and said that if US goes back to the deal with the Iran, Israel may not join their strategy. So I don't know what that exactly means, and there's been a lot of speculation about potential Israeli independent strike, against Iran without American consent or knowledge. But again, I find that highly unlikely. Israel may try to undermine American foreign policy, but I doubt they'll go openly against it. But that's what the Gilon Arden, I believe, are done. I'm mispronouncing names right and left here. But yeah, I think that's what he said. That they, if they will probably not follow with Joe Biden's strategy towards Iran, as they didn't in many ways during Obama. So it's not that surprising.
So, but you mentioned that the chief of IAEA is going to Iran next week to have talks. Did you also mention that apparently France and the US will be holding meetings? France, US, and others, I think, or three European nations, yeah, will hold talks with the US over Iran on
Oh,
Thursday.
yeah, that's what I meant by Antony Blinken meeting
Mm,
his foreign European counterparts to have talks.
interesting.
Basically, all these talks are basically, it seems to be about a strategy as to come up with a strategy to respond to either stop or delay Iran's reduction of commitments,
Hmm.
or to as to what will be our response. Will we go harsher, or will we, start giving some, ground to Iranians?
And last week, Macron kind of like, suggested that the Saudis should be involved in the negotiations, but no more talks about that since. Have you heard anything else?
Mm, No, no, that was quite interesting because, with Trump gone, Saudis kind of lost their biggest supporter within the European and American
Yeah.
countries, Western countries. But it was quite. I think that Macron keeps trying to come off as a more of an international leader,
Yeah.
so his popularity inside France sort of gets a bump. I don't think he's very successful, to be honest, and that caused a lot of anger in Iran because they found that to be very offensive somewhat, that that been a deal, they broke the deal, and now they want to add a new member to the deal. But it was
Yeah.
interesting of Macron to do that.
And just like I mentioned this last week also, but China seems to remain quiet for now. I mean, you forget that they were part of the deal.
Yeah, China always comes out and they say, they don't support the sanctions on
But it's
Iran,
funny,
and
they
they
don't even take
suggest.
part in these meetings with like the Europeans and the Americans,
Oh, no,
like
no.
why
Well,
not?
because they're not really invited. That they are on the Iranian side. China and Russia are on the Iranian
True,
side.
even
So
the
that's
Russians are not there, yeah. I mean the right, yeah.
yeah. No, no, that's
True.
definitely because of they have meetings with Iranians and
Yeah.
Russians.
But I guess the
Let's hope
Russians,
then this
sorry, so I'm
Russians.
guessing the Russians and the Chinese at the end of the day will be okay with anything that Iran is okay with, huh?
Yeah, yeah, large. Yeah, yeah. To be honest, they are not like Russia. A lot of times they could have used their veto powers to stop sanctions
Mm-hmm.
against Iran, but they didn't. So the idea that there is far less coordination among Iran, Russia, China bloc, or let's say among the
Yeah.
developing countries bloc, or resistance countries bloc, whatever you want to call them. There's much less coordination and uh, you know uh, synchronity compared
Yeah, yeah.
to US and Europe, so to speak.
Yeah, no, for sure. They have
Sadly.
much more to discuss, I feel. But yeah, okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Anything else?
Not on this, to be honest,
Yeah,
but
no.
yeah, it will be 23rd of
Mm,
February is the day to look forward
okay.
to if you're, following these type of news.
And there's still Thursday and Friday. Let's see if anything else comes out on this issue
Hmm?
before the weekend arrives. And usually you take it easy. Pick negotiations back up again on Monday. Okay. All right.
Hopefully.
Okay. Thank you everybody for watching this video. If you like the content, please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.